Here's a couple things that don't seem to go together. Severe affliction and abundance of joy, and extreme poverty and a wealth of generosity. These are descriptions of the people of Macedonia during Paul's day, but we see the same thing happening in Cuba. And we want to share with you the unfolding grace of God in Cuba that brings much glory to Him and how we can help with them at this time. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining us again today. My co-worker Mark Nicholson is off in India and is making his way today, I think, toward Kenya, where we're going to be doing some work in Kenya before he comes home. And he should be back with us next week. But this week I have a very special guest with me, Jeanne Pernia, and we're going to hear some really fun stories from her in a few minutes. But I wanted to really begin by introducing our topic today. My favorite novel has always been the great Victor Hugo novel Les Miserables, which translated from the French means The Miserables. And I can't help but think that if this book were written today, The Miserables might be translated Los Miserables. Or Los Miserables, maybe, would be the right word, Jeannie. I'm not sure what my Spanish is. But the point is, while there are many, many places in the world where misery is common, Cuba today is an island of people living in abject misery and affliction. And when you get to know people, real people, family, friends, you get a chance to visit from town to town to town, it begins to feel very, very personal. I think that's probably true if you have friends in Ukraine, for example. What's going on there is just very, very personal. But anyway, Cuba right now is a land of misery. And I wanted to bring Jeanne Pernia into our podcast today so that she could share with us a little about her life and her work there in Cuba. So, Jeanne, welcome to our program here, and just share with us a little bit about your connections to Cuba.
Thank you so much, John, for allowing me to share, especially in this topic. Um,
Mm.
my story with Cuba actually goes back, having been raised by a stepdad who was from Cuba, and then getting married to a Cuban living in South Florida. I visited Cuba actually for the first time, even before I had met my husband. I
Mm.
went kind of just to take some things to family members of my stepdad. But even back then, I remember that it really impacted me because I saw it as being black and white
Mm.
compared to the United States living in color,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
But
Mm.
back in 2016, Passion Life went for the very first time to a small beach town in Santiago.
Mm-hmm.
And they received us with open arms. And we noticed, of course, that they lived in very difficult situations, but the church was very alive and very happy and very hopeful.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the most striking things that you see is the abject poverty and the joy of the Lord. Yeah.
So, we've been traveling now. We're coming up to actually our 10th year. We're in November. And
Mm.
every time that we go by, we go back, we continue to see the growth, the
Mm.
expansion, and how these people just come together to expand the great information that we have brought them regarding
Mm.
life and sanctity of life
Mm.
there. And it's just been such a joy until really recently. My last trip there was in December, and
Uh-huh.
I would say that they're really facing some dire straits right now, John.
Yeah. How many
And
times have you been to Cuba? Do you know?
I think I lost count, but it's got to
Okay.
be at least, say, 6 or 7 times, perhaps each year. So,
Each year
each year. So if you're
for
talking
eight or
about
nine, eight,
years,
nine,
yeah,
10 years.
I've been there quite a bit. It's very close to our hometown here in Miami. So for me, it's really like it's oftentimes quicker to get there than to travel to my mom's house, who's 3 hours away.
Yeah.
Just getting on a plane, I can be in Havana in 30 minutes.
Well, you've been from one end to the other, and you've been there somewhere around 50 to 60 times, then it seems to me. I can understand why you've lost count. I want you to be able to share some very real personal stories, things that you've been an eyewitness to, but I want to kind of uh, uh, read a scripture that I think is what lies underneath the stories that you're going to tell. Okay,
Okay.
so I'm going to be reading from 2 Corinthians chapter 8, and when I read these verses, I kept thinking that the Apostle Paul saw something that was so glorious in his own mind, so beautiful in terms of how the grace of God was unfolding uh, to the churches in Macedonia, which is sort of the northern part of Greece, um, that he described it in a way that is stunning. And my immediate thought was the closest thing that I've ever seen to this description is Cuba. And I think that you're going to agree with this. I think that your stories are going to illustrate it. So let me lay it out for you here, okay? So Paul writes the following. He says, I want you to know, brothers. Okay, so he's been an eyewitness of something. He just doesn't want to report it. He says, you guys need to know what's going on here because this is so amazing. That's kind of the tone that I interpret these words with. I want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in a wealth of generosity on their part. So here's these things that don't come together very often, but they've come together here. So on one hand, they're facing a severe test of affliction. That takes us right to your most recent visits to Cuba,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about. And yet it's matched with this abundance of joy. So you would think that that's a weird combination, but that is when the grace of God shows up, those things go together. And then here's the other one that blows my mind. These are people that are described as people of extreme poverty,
Mm.
and yet their testimony is that in their extreme of poverty, they have overflowed with a wealth of generosity. Wealth of generosity you would tie with wealthy people. But in Paul's experience, he's been an eyewitness to people who are the poorest being the most generous or being extremely generous. So these combinations are so stunning that he calls it the very grace of God. And I know that you have seen this unfold. So if you were writing today, you could say, I need you to know about the grace of God in Cuba, where you see these things happening. So tell us a little bit about your
Well,
own personal witness.
I'll tell you, I was just going through some recent pictures since I've been back, and I'm seeing this gathering of women, and it's a beautiful picture where they're having like a little get together party, and that was for the first of the year. Um, and the pastors are there, and they have
Mm.
welcomed one of the women who has come back to visit after 4 years, where she surprisingly got pregnant once she came to the United States, although she
Uh huh.
tried for years to get pregnant there. And they are having a celebration of life. And we're
Mm.
talking, this is January. By this
Okay.
time, we are already experiencing blackouts for over 18 hours a day,
Yeah.
no food, and when I see this, I just couldn't help but ask myself, they're all smiling. Okay, they're
Mm.
taking a picture, but regardless, these people, in the midst of what they are going through, their joy is their strength because when they come together, they see what the Lord is doing, and their generosity is just in sharing, what the Lord is doing in each one of their lives in a very special way. So
Yeah.
this is Pastor Javier and his wife Elisa,
Mm.
and it just brought me so much joy. I mean, the room is filled with babies that they have
Mm.
rescued right out of their church in their home, and
Yeah.
that just
Okay.
really brought me a lot of joy. Um, Alongside of that, there's another picture of the pastors that are from Siboney, Dr.
Uh-huh.
Jornelis and his wife, Ivelis. They are standing there with a family of seven. This is the dad and the mom and
Yeah.
seven children, all from the original parents here.
Wow.
Cuba had, besides what they're going through as far as the lack of energy and food, they just had a major hurricane, category 3, go
Mm.
through Santiago. And this is one of the families that had just started visiting the church because they helped rescue the last baby.
Yeah.
They were homeless. Their house was totally demolished. And I had the
Mm.
opportunity to go and bring some providence that was given through another church in Puerto Rico. But we were able to actually buy them a
Oh,
house where they
okay.
would have a roof and a kitchen. And
Mm.
they are just so happy to know that the church came through the ministry of the Passion Life at their church, and we're
Mm.
able to get them a roof and a house for this beautiful family.
Beautiful. So the rescue work, the work of rescue that starts in the womb and our
Yes,
ability to help moms have their babies expands out in all kinds of directions. So what you're saying is that this local church, what's this pastor's name here then? Uh,
That's Pastor Jornelis and
Jornales.
his
Okay.
wife Evis. And I mean, people in Cuba were not having their babies, yet this family has seven children, John.
Yeah.
This is outstanding. This is like
Okay.
the ones in China, right? Having four when they weren't
Yeah.
supposed to have one.
That's
Uh,
right. That's right.
and alongside, there's another picture here of they're in church. Now, you've got the worship band up there, but there's no electricity. And
Mm.
everybody is praising and worshiping the Lord in church with no electricity, yet
Okay.
they come together.
Interesting. So I know that the electricity cuts out there for 10, 12, 15 hours a day. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And it's happening all over the island right now. It's not in
Mm.
any one certain place like before.
I remember the last time I was there, the water would go off at least half of the time that we were there. So I don't ever remember I remember being there for a week. I don't ever remember having a shower while I was there because there was no running water. There's no water to flush the toilet, which is a little bit awkward. Okay. Um, and that was sort of the in your face, visceral sense of living living miserably.
Yeah.
Uh, what's happened over the last 6 or 8 months there that you see is just adding to their misery? Do you know?
Well, they are just experiencing more and more need. Without the fuel, just think about it. Yeah, the pumps for the water won't work. The
Okay.
refrigerator, you can't keep food. And so I would say that we are really seeing either, I mean, a total decline where people are going to suffer. They're still going to
Yeah.
suffer a bit, but we are actually believing that God will deliver these people, that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
will see at some moment, very shortly, the liberation of an island that is so beautiful and their people are so beautiful that,
Yeah.
but I mean, this is it. We're down to the wire,
And
and
there's no medicines.
there's no
Uh,
medicine.
I think when I was there, someone told me that when they went in for surgery, they had to show up with their own sutures.
Yeah. And I have an amazing story that I do want to share
Go
now,
ahead.
which is the story of Moses. Moses is
Okay.
a little baby boy that was saved back in 2022, I believe it was.
Uh-huh.
He just had a birthday. And baby Moses is here with Anya, who's our medical director there. And she's
Yeah.
actually celebrating his birthday. And this is such a story because baby Moses' heart was it was reversed. And in the womb, they had told this mama who had she also had three children. Moses was going to be number 4, and
Okay.
everybody was telling her that they did not want to be responsible for this child. But yet our staff there, our group, our volunteers hung in with Moses, and they brought him into Havana, and God provided the equipment necessary and the surgeons. And
Mm.
baby Moses here is actually celebrating his 4th birthday.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so just this child's smile, someone gave him a helmet, and you'll see the helmet. But
Okay.
he is just the joy of the family. And that is one of the countless stories that we have of saving these lives that God has just predestined to be
Mm.
there. And
Yeah.
I know that someday we're going to hear about the great and wonderful things that this baby Moses will obtain.
Yeah. I think the reason that we can't stop talking about Cuba is because we're really talking about how the Christians in Cuba have, out of their great affliction and extreme poverty, taken the lead on these things. I don't want people to think that this is somehow just you and me and other wealthy Americans. We have a role to play here, but it's been these Christians, these churches, that are reaching out to people that have lost their homes or are pregnant and unprepared. Um, and they're finding ways to help them using their own meager resources. And I think that's why the whole thing kind of drips with glory. Jeannie, people are going to want to also be helpful. So we're going to take
Well,
a break. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you and others have done just in our own ways to get food and medicine into Cuba and to contribute in some way to the relief that the people of Cuba needs. But let's take a break and we'll come back and tell those stories.
The US accounts for only 3% of the abortions that happen in our world each year, leaving 97% of the crisis before us as a world missions challenge. Would you join us in serving where the need is greatest? PassionLife, rescuing the most vulnerable where abortion is most concentrated.
As I travel all over the world, people commonly ask me what they can say and do to help a mother who's in a pregnancy-related crisis. And I always say to them, be ready to speak up and show them the simplest of things. Show them what their baby looks like. We call this the Passion Life Tiny Baby. It's what you look like at 9 weeks of age, and it's available. You can find more information about it on our website. We're talking a little bit about the misery in Cuba and the enormous, resplendent grace of God that has been given to the believers in Cuba, and allowing them to do some extraordinary things in just the way the Bible describes it. And Paul said it was out of their extreme poverty that they overflowed in a wealth of generosity. So people who are poor also want to help with relief work. That's a very important thing for everybody to know. It's not just wealthy people who get the joy of giving and bringing relief. Poor people also have something to give. And we want to make sure that we're always allowing everybody to experience the joy of giving and bringing relief to those who are suffering. We see this really highlighted in Cuba. Jeannie, you had a story about Sandy that you wanted to share, which again illustrates this very idea. Can you share that with us?
yes, after COVID, we had the blessing of meeting Pastor Sandy Cancino, who
Uh,
is from Havana. and was already pretty hooked up with most of the pastors there in Havana. And we invited him also to come on board. And he just grabbed the torch and started to go out and share the 4 questions and started to put together coordinators and to meet with those that we had worked with prior, which was our Dr. Anya and Pastor Jordanelis. And he brought alongside other pastors from Bayamo and other major cities and just started to network and show that this can be done. This is doable. And so he pulled together and he highlighted some of the volunteers that would be coordinating, helping these pastors reach out to other churches. And John, I believe we just recently received an update, and there is 23 different help centers, ministries for women in crisis. And it's
Okay.
gone full force throughout the whole island. And we are so happy to show that Sandy is one of those servants,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
servant leader. And I thank God that he has come on board because he is making it possible to get these so needed things, whatever. I mean, prenatal vitamins, um, just everything that these different pregnancy centers need to keep going.
Okay. So Sandy is a guy that by his own network and relationships that he has is trying to figure out how to motivate the church in their severe affliction to get out there and rescue moms who are maybe afraid to have their babies. But also now with the loss of water and electricity and no food and no gasoline and no medicines, there's a very pragmatic relief side of what we're doing here. So do you have a particular picture you wanted to show me about Sandy?
Yeah, you can see he is standing there with the boxes and the duffel bags hopping into a bus. And
Okay.
these are buses that take 16, 14 hours in the,
Wow.
in the heat of the day. Remember, Cuba is a very, very hot and humid. They're undergoing issues of health concerns because of the
Yeah.
mosquitoes. Please know that the health conditions are horrific.
And
I
what is it
myself
that what's in these boxes? And
Oh, we
and
we yeah, we have he's been given supplies from other ministries as well. And
okay.
he when the hurricane took place, he was able to take food, rice, beans, just little bags throughout all
Okay.
of the different centers that we're
Yeah.
working with.
Yeah. Well, people watching are going to want to be helping also. Everybody wants to help feel good about helping others in genuine need. I have a sister in my own adult class on Sunday who in our Sunday class, she stood up just a couple days ago and said that she shipped off 400 pounds of food and medicines in 13 boxes and 2 suitcases. And she dropped them off here at a place in Atlanta to get it flown down to Cuba. So here she is, just as an individual, just taking it upon herself to go out and start collecting medicines and vitamins and foodstuffs and getting them off. And Dr. Hartline, who worked with us, I guess is headed down, right?
Yeah.
What's he going to do now?
Dr. Hartline's going to get some stuff out to me because I'll be meeting with Sandy in Mexico. We're going to be
Uh,
teaching there. And the good thing is that Sandy still has a visa and is still allowed to travel to the US and to neighboring countries. So I'm going to meet up with him and give him a big duffel bag of vitamins. And also, Dr. Hartline is sending medications and
okay.
pregnancy tests and
Okay.
whatever we can get out to him.
Okay. Well, you know, we're not the United States government. We're not FEMA. We don't deal in millions and millions of whatever, but we can each do our part. And I think in many cases, people in America have been helping their families back in Cuba. And we've got Dr. Hartline. He's actually going to be sending you the material, and then you're going to give it to Sandy
That's
in
correct.
Mexico, who's going to bring it back into Cuba.
That's
Okay.
it.
And I know that every time that you go down to Cuba, you end up taking an extra bag or something with clothes and food and
I
medicines.
go in my closet, John. I just pull it out.
Well, if people wanted to help you, defray some of the shipping costs, I know Anna, my friend I just talked about, who sent off 400 pounds, she spent about $1,300 on the shipping. So the shipping was probably more than the stuff that she bought, okay? But if people wanted to help with some of these things, they could contribute to Passion Life, and you could use some of those money to buy more duffel bags and fill them up with medicines. Is that correct?
Absolutely. This is, it's such a good resource to be able to help these people. This is fertile ground. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way. This is
Yeah.
real fertile ground to be able to give and help because these people need it. And
Well, I
yeah.
just want to summarize the fact that Jeanne is a living eyewitness to what the Word of God says, and that is that people who are poor can be among the most joyful and the most generous. And so it has nothing to do with what our starting point is. It has everything to do with believing that that God has called us to bring relief to those who are suffering, to feed the hungry, to care for the poor, to rescue the innocent. And oftentimes all of these elements are taking place and are needed in the same place. It's not like you just have one issue to deal with. Severe affliction, hurricanes in Cuba, homelessness, no medicine, no water, no electricity, a government that's very oppressive, basic food and the need for gasoline, all these other things. But we can each do our part. So if you want to help, go to passionlife.org and make a donation. And if you want to follow what happens in Cuba, just let us know and we'll put you on a list. Make sure that you get all the updates of what's going on in Cuba. But until then, please remember our brothers and sisters in Cuba and the great ministry that they have right now of generosity in the midst of affliction. Thank you so much. God bless.